Just want to make a quick video that used Harleys are very affordable, especially a Sportster. I want to say, in my opinion, though, if you get what the best all-around Harley Davidson would be the Dyna or the old Super Glide, like a Dyna, like an old twin cam. But you're probably going to find a little more reliability in the Sportster. Now, I like the 91, the 2003 Sportster, because you could take the trend to see this is where under this primary cover, you got a trap door after the clutch and a chain, and you could pull the transmission out from this side after you take the the sprocket off the other side. You do not have to pull the whole engine and split the cases like you have to on a 2004 and up Sportster. Man, if they would have made the rubber mount where you could take the transmission out and leave the engine and stuff in the frame, oh, that would have been great. I would say that's the best one, but nope, that's a deal killer to me. So this one I picked. This I'm showing you actually the photo. Like, this is when I bought the bike. This was the bike as posted online, and it had like a little over 20,000. It had like 20,200 miles. I think the odometer shows like 20,100. This is exactly the way it was. Okay, it had the highway pegs on it. A couple. You can see the battery thing is upside down on there. It had a new battery in it though. It was clean. It had. You can see it was plated over here. And it had a slammer shocks on it. It was almost like riding a hardtail. I actually had to change that later on. But this is exactly how I got the bike. And it was $2,000 even. Now, when you say $2,000, you got to pay sales tax, you got to pay, registration, title transfer. So, it was more than a few $100 more, maybe $2,350 by the time that's done, insurance and all that. So, but still, it's very affordable. And the bike, the tires on it were Dunlop. I think they were just 404s, but they were not. They were in good condition. They were not worn out. They were not over age. It had an oil cooler on it and highway pegs. It was pretty much set up, So it was mid-controls. I personally wanted mid-controls. And I wanted a bike like my other bike, my 89 Sportster, which is a little bit, it's been changed over a little bit over the years. But I want something kind of simple that, it overlaps my other bike. And I wanted this one, but as a kind of like a quote-unquote spare. But, I started thinking, I said, what's going to happen? These bikes are, it almost reminds me of, back in the 60s, or even before what I remember in the 50s, whatever. I was born in 55, but, they used to get, like, 1940s cars, jalopies, they used to call them, and put, Oldsmobile engines in them and stuff like that. And they were like, you used to get cars like $50 and stuff that actually ran everything. You just run them down the road. They were fine. Actually, not 100% fine, but they were roadworthy and fairly reliable. And, now if you try to get like any of these 30s cars and stuff like that, they're like gold plated, And I think that's going to happen. The same thing with Harley. These older Sportsters, since they stopped making Sportster, I think it ran from 1957 to 2018 or 2019. These bikes are later on, they're going to be super highly desirable. But I wouldn't get it just for that reason, because in my opinion, a Sportster pretty much does anything you want it to do. So this is the mileage. You see 20,067. I think I got it. I think it had like 20,200 exactly, or 20,202. And I only put like a little over 1,000 miles on it in a year and a half. I don't use it that much, but I use it. And you can see some rust on here a little bit. I cleaned all that off a little. I did a lot of little stuff to it. Like this is a little later on. I put like a little windshield on it. It's a quick disconnect. Because, you can ride these Sportsters pretty far. It's a matter of your physical endurance. I usually don't go over 300 miles anyway. I don't ever really go over 300 miles in one shot. Never, pretty much. I don't remember the last time I ever did that. I usually go, like, Shorter trips, I'll go out a few times, and it's not just because it's like a pleasure ride. It's to go somewhere, but it's like 60 to 120 miles. And sometimes, when you go on these like little runs or whatever it was, there might be 150 to 250 miles, something like that. Which pretty much takes up all day because there's traffic and there's stops. So this is a $2,000, but say $2,350. By the time you do tax, title, insurance, then the most expensive. This is where it still had the 2.2 gallon gas tank on it, and this is the first year that they went to the 5-speed. Now, one thing I really liked about this bike was that when they first went to the 5-speed, the baseline 883 Sportster 5-speed was a chain drive, and there's a chain. Now, I'm just not I don't really care if it came with a belt. I would leave it as a belt. I wouldn't convert it to a chain. But I thought that's cool. I'll just leave it like the chain. And a lot of people, I'm not into like changing stuff just to change it. I always want to have it for practical value. I mean, this came with the highway pegs. That's cool. It's got an oil cooler on it, which is pretty good to have in Florida because it does get freaking really hot over here. The little pop-off windshield. I resisted having a windshield for decades, and then after a while, I'm like, when I got it, I was like, especially if you're getting in really, really bad rain, that helps, or it's really cold out or something. And you notice even on the back here, you see how I got a backpack like that? You just throw it over the back seat. It also came with a Mustang seat, which is like a $350 seat. So between the oil cooler, the new battery, he rebuilt the carburetor, but I found out later on, must have screwed. I don't know what he did. I'm not criticizing the guy. I mean, he gave me a great deal. But I found out the vacuum diaphragm was torn in the carburetor. And I was wondering, man, this little 883 seems to be pretty good just taking off. But I couldn't really get it going 80 miles an hour on a highway unless the wind was behind me. Then I found out the little diaphragm in the carburetor had a tear in it. And I found that out because what I did was I went to CV Performance and I picked up some jets, like for like $30-something. They'll tell you the exact right jets. So it's like if you do have, like this is an 883. It's an 883. So if you have an 883 stock, this is what you put in. If you have a conversion to 12, it kind of tells you. If you have a 1200, this is what you do. And, then, if you got different cams, headwork, and stuff like that, different valves, then it gets down to like, you probably have to go bigger jets. But from the factory, these things are running pretty lean. So, when I got the bike, it wasn't that bad, but it wasn't that good on a highway. Like when I got it up around 65, it was like it was a dog, and it was because there was that vacuum diaphragm, vacuum diaphragm in the carburetor was screwed up. And I never looked at it because he said he rebuilt it. I said, well, this is probably how 883s are. I didn't realize it was a problem. But when I put the jets in the carburetor from CV Performance and I fixed the vacuum diaphragm thing, so this it's what you call a stage one. You rejet the carburetor, you put a better air cleaner. Oh, this came with a Vance & Hines air cleaner, which is cool. And it's got the Harley Screaming Eagle mufflers, slip-ons. Those freaking slip-ons from Harley actually are pretty damn good. For what you just doing slip-ons, they're actually pretty good. This thing, when I did the jetting and fixed the carburetor with that air cleaner and the pipes like that, this thing scoots along pretty damn good. And it still gets way over 50 miles to the gallon. It's not a bad bike at all, man. I mean, I was always thinking, an 883, that's a tiny little bike. It's got to be at least 1,200 or something, or you got to put a cam in it, and you got to do valves, and because and reality is though, if you go back, because I'm older, I remember when they had the 1,200. That was the big bike. They had the big twin and they had the Sportster, and then the 74 cubic inch, and then it came out the 80, the older, the last subwheads were 80 cubic inches. And then, now it's like 80 cubic inches, 1340, no, it's actually, I think it's 82, 1340 cc's, that's nothing. I don't know, it's like a little dick measuring contest. That's what the hell it is. It's stupid, man. All the bikes, this 883, I was thinking, I don't even want to make this at 1200. No way. It's good the way it is right now. I might put a kicker on it, maybe from Ledge Sled, maybe. But that's money and stuff. But I might do that because I think that's a great little reliable backup. And as an 883, it probably wouldn't be that bad to kick. I mean, you start getting up to like 108, 106 cubic inches and stuff. Forget about it. So this is like, oh yeah, I put a different. I went over to I think it was Ledge Sled, and they had a 3.8 gallon gas tank. That I definitely need it because, I think if you get a 96 and up, they can come with a 3.2, which ain't that bad. But going from a 2.2 to this is a 3.8. Did I say 3.6? It's a 3.8. So I went from a 2.2 to a 3.8 gallon gas tank. Now you got to remember this Sportster gets better mileage than other bikes. So it has pretty good range. It has a range of, say, a bike that's a big twin with like a 4.2 gallon gas tank, even though it's a 3.8. So it's got pretty good range. And what I did on this, I got a tool bag over here, got a tool bag back there, and I put a side bag over here. And I put longer mirrors on it. And I changed out the fork oil. I put those caps on there. A long time ago, they came out with the fork caps where they have inserts in them. So you can pull out, you could refill the oil in the forks without messing around trying to compress that spring. And I don't know why Harley doesn't even make it that way originally. But I remember when they first came out with them, it was like nobody had them. It was like one machine shop did it. Now I think they're sold like online. You can find them from major manufacturers, like I think Twin Power or something. But not all Harleys have that, but the Sportster has that. It's a good thing to get. So I think the only thing I did on this, I did change the handlebars. I did change the risers. I wanted them a little higher up. I didn't want them like, you're not real high or nothing, just a little higher up. It's kind of like an all-around motorcycle riding position. It's not like mini apes or nothing, but they're a little higher because the Sportsters, they got really low risers, and it's, I don't know, they're just easier to ride with, And I got the little fast remove, quick disconnect windshield, a couple tool bags, the side bag. I know I did a few more things to it. Oh, they had slammer shocks on it, and the slammer shocks, it was like riding a hardtail. I swear to God, it was like there was no movement. No matter where I put those shocks, I got some hugger shocks, and this thing was not a hugger from the beginning, so the kickstand was wrong. I had to change the kickstand to a kickstand that, allows the bike to lean over a little more because it's a little lower. But it is it's a sweet little freaking ride, man. I can tell you that right now. I had a problem actually even clearancing this tank, but I figured it out. I had to take even the petcock and grind down this petcock here so that when you flipped it down, it would clear the thing. This was like, what I like about this though, it's pretty close to my 89. And, it's pretty close. So it's like I don't have to. A lot of the parts, there's a lot of interchangeability and stuff. It makes it a lot more logistically easier, and it makes it easier to go from one bike to the other. It's not like there's some kind of learning curve. And the other factor I started coming into, not that I feel old or nothing. I'm 70, and I'm thinking, how much longer? Because a lot of people younger than me, they're already riding trikes. They're riding trikes. They're not even freaking riding two wheels. So, it is easier. I mean, except on it. Well, let me say this. It's easier to handle a Sportster around traffic and stuff like that. It's not easier to handle a Sportster on a long distance, though. Even if I'm just doing 80 miles or something, going to some places 80 miles out, and there's a 60-mile ride and it's 80 miles back. So that would be, 220 miles or something like that. That actually would wear you out more than if you're riding like the big twin, like a Dyna or something like that, or maybe a Softail. I don't know. Everybody's got their damn opinions, but I'm actually pretty physically fit. And I know that, like, if I get back into the mode where I'm working out 3 hours a day, I could probably run this Sportster, like, and do like a 500-mile run or something like that, which some people say that's nothing. But, that's kind of a lot on a Sportster, like an older one. It really is. It's like you're doing a lot. You're doing a lot more. It wears you out a hell of a lot more, man. It does. I mean, it does. People, I heard people say, I rode 100 miles on a Sportster and it was killing me. Now, I do that all the time, like nothing. 100's nothing. Even a couple 100's nothing. I've never found any reason to do over 300 in a day. It's like the whole day is done by the time before I get to 300 miles. It's like, if I'm going to meet somebody someplace and it's between 60 and 90 miles away, so that's 60. So say it was 90 up and 90 back, it's 180. And there was a ride somewhere, even if it was like 100 miles or something, it's still under 300. And it takes up the whole day. By the time, I leave early, I leave when it's dark, and when I'm coming back, it's dark. So, now let me get into something else about people, the younger generation. Not saying all of them, but a lot of them are not really wanting to ride because it's either cold, or it's hot, or it's raining out, and now, I'll tell you, I'm going to go a little longer on this video. One thing that really stopped me from riding a lot more was I was down in Winter Park, and it was a corporate park, right? Big freaking parking area. And I always, and not this bike, but you can see the slammer shocks. This is the 91, a new one, right? And the other one, right? And this is years ago, in 97 or something, or 98. I think it was 98. And I always take my cable. It's a bicycle cable. It's a thick one, though. And I wrap it around like a utility pole, and I use the fork lock up here. So, like, somebody just can't pick it up and throw it in a truck. They'd have to cut the cable. Well, you know what? Broad daylight, it was bright, super sunny day. Somebody came by and stole all the bikes in the parking lot, and mine was the only one there left. Now, I never made a video about all the shit I went through having my bike rebuilt and all the crap. It's like, I don't even want to think about it. You know what I mean? So I stopped, my thing was, what was that? Live to ride, ride to live. My thing was, this is an old expression too. It's, ride to work, work to ride, ride to work. So I used to take it to work all the time. And I says, as long as I make it there without getting soaking wet, that's cool. I mean, I used to get there, because usually in Florida, it don't rain in the morning. It's like late afternoon, early evening. So a lot of times when I was coming back, man, I got deluged on by typhoons and stuff. But, I used to ride to work. Then I stopped doing that because the bikes got stolen. I don't like that shit, man. I mean, you say, well, they steal a Sportster. Well, they stole everything. They stole 300cc Yamahas and stuff. They stole everything. I hear a lot of talk shit crap in the Harley world. That's one thing I don't get into all the biker crap. I just like the two wheels. And I ride, I ride 3 or more times a week usually. And I don't know, maybe each ride is like between 60 and 120 miles on average. Like, I don't go ride out, try to do 500 miles. Like, I never do over 300. And, I don't have time for that shit. And it's like, it's not really for pleasure. It's for, usually just going to some place or something we got to do. I'm involved in some heritage organizations and stuff. So we do stuff like with that. And, that's the deal. But, my point on this is that the bikes aren't that expensive. This bike, I really didn't have to do jack crap to, man. It was like, the oil was already changed, but I changed it anyway, and the transmission fluid. I changed the fork oil. Adjusted the chain. I mean, I didn't do that much to it, man. The tires were good and everything. The battery was new. And it was $2,000. But, this isn't a fluke. It's not a fluke. They're around. But I'll tell you, you keep waiting around, you know what's going to happen? They're going to go, oh, yeah, I remember when there was, whatever it was, 440 Mopar engines. You could buy them for a dime a dozen for $50 out of a motorhome. Go try to find one now. Go ahead. And I just say, it's the generations are getting worse and worse, man. I know that. I'll say this too, I heard somebody say I'm not a biker, and I was like, I don't really care if you say I'm a biker or not, because I really don't give a crap what my status is. But I do know that when I'm out riding during the week, I don't see many bikes out there, man. Not at all. And I don't even see them on a weekend much, even on Saturday or Sunday. But come around because I'm in Florida, near Daytona and Leesburg. Come around those two, the Bike Oktoberfest or Daytona Bike Week or Leesburg Bike Fest. There's bikes all over the place for the whole week, all the time. They're all over the place. And they're not necessarily coming from out of state. They're local, because people don't. That's why you could pick up. So you figure this out. This is a 91 Harley. You can get ones even lower miles, and you can get one for 10,000 miles on them. This is a 91. So I bought this last. Now I only put 1,000 miles, a little over 1,000 on it in a year, but that's probably more. That's more than was going on it before. But I got another bike. That's why I used the other one, But I got this one. I was thinking, man, my other bike is looking. I got engine restoring. I think the pistons, it's got blow by on it, but I put the engine restore in it. I never heard of anybody put an engine restore in a Harley. I put it in there. I don't give a shit. It's it's an engine like everything else. I've used it on other vehicles, and the blow by seems to have stopped. And I'm like, you know what? If it gives me another 10,000 miles, I don't know. I don't know. I don't ride. I think I only ride like in a year, maybe 5,000 or 6,000. Because right now it's summer, so you ride more unless it's raining out like crazy. That might give me another couple years. So I'm not into like blowing all kinds of money on bikes and shit. You could. I mean, if you want, you could spend. That's stupid. I mean, I don't say you got to make it your own and custom. I don't agree with that crap. What you got to do, what you don't have to do. But what I'm saying is, what's practical for you is what you do. Like if you feel like you got like this tool thing here, like I got some tools in there. In this backpack, I have the upper rain jacket in there, and I got this one's almost empty, but a lot of times they put like a Stanley double insulated thermostat thing in there. Because you need liquid when you're riding, because you get all dehydrated and stuff. This blue didn't match this blue, turn out at all. So I put these knee pad things on the side. I put a sticker over here, which I can't freaking show you on YouTube. And I put a little windshield on it. It wasn't, the windshield, I think, on a Sportster looks stupid, okay? In my opinion, I hate the way it looks. I like the way it does when I'm riding. Okay, it's like it blocks the freaking wind, and it blocks the typhoon downpours. It's like, well, every I was out in California, and also I was out in Southern California for 3 years when I was in Pendleton, for 3.5 years, and I know what the desert's like. And I was up north in the Northeast, and I know what the snow was like. But I do know that down here in Florida, man, there's like, it's all flat, makes it easier to ride and stuff like that. It's got nice weather. But when it rains, it can get absolutely ridiculous. I mean, the people are freaking got their four-way flashers on, and their wipers are going full speed. So if you get caught out in one of those, you'd be glad you got a windshield. Or at least a full-faced helmet, or even a face shield or something. I wear a half helmet, and I wear like little goggles, so the windshield comes in handy, man. So anyway, I went a little longer on this, but I wanted to show you. This is exactly how I got the bike. It was $2,000. This was $2,000, man. Highway pegs, new battery, mostly rebuilt carburetor, oil cooler, all oil changed, good tires. They were Dunlops. It had the Vance and Hines air cleaner system, the Mustang 2-up seat, Mustang seat, and the Screaming Eagle slip-ons. And it was the one thing I wanted, though. I wanted the 5-speed, man, because I got my '89 Sportster geared for highway as much as possible. It actually is fine. It works. It works fine. It's the final gear ratio is almost as close as this, on a highway. But the engine's built up so much though that it pulls fine in first gear. It's like the thing's got it's a good little freaking Sportster, man. I tell you what, I like that bike, man. I've had it for 8 million years. So I'm just gonna keep using it. That's the main one I use. But this one kind of feels semi close to it, so I like it. That was one of the reasons I got it. But I keep saying to myself, yes, people are buying electric bikes for $1,500, right? And I'm like, why are you doing that? Why are you doing it? But you know what? There's not going to be as much. There's not going to be enough of these bikes to go around for everybody. So let the worthy get them. That's what's going to happen. Over and out. Just this was not something professionally put together. There's no AI or nothing, but it's coming from my lifelong experiences and from the heart. And don't let anybody give you shit about riding a Sportster or an 883. These 883, I'm surprised. I was surprised when I put that freaking jetting kit in there. This bike actually is pretty peppy, man. And I was doing some calculations. I'm going a little longer on this. I was doing some calculations, power to weight. If you're going back to like 1975 or something like that, and you had like an FLH or whatever the hell it was, like a 1274 cubic inch motor with all the stuff that's on it, I think this 883 is faster. I think the Sportsters back in the day were faster than the big twins, and because of the weight. And I think they were more reliable back then too. I'm not that familiar when you're talking back to the 70s and stuff, because I was like 17 when in 72, so I don't know. I know very little, but I started finding out more stuff in the 80s. I also say this, man. I should throw several topics in here because, when a Harley Davidson was really like, a more badass bike back in the 70s and 60s. Sometimes you'd see either choppers or stripped down. Well, you saw a lot of Nortons and stuff like that, BSAs and Triumphs back then. But you would see the Electroglide with like 50 million lights on it and stuff like that. Usually they deck it out with 8 million lights. That's what they did back then. That's what I remember. And by the time the late 80s came about, they were already starting to get yuppie. It was starting to come in there, but most of it was not like that. Most of it was not, but it was starting to get there. And over the years, I think right now Harley Davidson is mostly yuppie, mostly, although it's not by any means all yuppie. I think it's mostly. But usually the ones that talk the most shit about Sportsters and stuff like that, they're usually the ones that were just idiots. I mean, they don't even ride that much. Do not be afraid. I mean, it is better to get a 1200 Sportster right from the get-go because the price difference is not going to be that much, but it's going to be harder to find. But this 883, man, I am absolutely happy with the fucking power output on it. And with that 3.8 gallon tank that's on there now, like I said, it's sort of like having a 4.2 or bigger task tank than that on a big twin because of the mileage you can get on a Sportster. This stupid thing does move along pretty good just with those few minor modifications. So, you could spend all the money in the world on these damn things, but these are as far as reliability too, these are one of the most reliable bikes on the planet, period. But you know what's going to happen? People are going to wait and say, I remember when it cost this much. I could have had this, could have had that. Well, you know what? You're better off starving and losing 50 pounds by not eating food so you can afford your bike than waiting.